So this is just taking you through an overall lesson for solving percent problems. So an example of a percent problem would be trying to find the part or the total of something. So if I said 55% of what number is 22? Sounds kind of fancy or confusing, but basically you're just saying, I know part is 22, okay? What was the original total, right? 22 out of how many equals 55%? That's basically what we're saying, okay? That would be a percent problem. And the reason why is because when you are working with percent problems, basically what you are trying to do is either determine what is the part or what is the total or what's the percent, right? So this is your percent right here. Percent is always out of 100, right? So in this example, 55% of what number is 22? I'm going to take you through the steps that you should follow in order to solve this problem, okay? So the first thing that you want to do, no matter what the setup is, you want to write this formula down. Is over of equals percent out of 100. Okay, so that is actually written pretty big in your notes in 2 different pages. So those are the notes that you want to focus on while you're listening to this video, okay? The next part is after you have your formula written, you want to start filling in your formula. You're looking for clues. I always say the easiest thing to locate in this problem is your percent, okay? We are literally looking for what number would be our is in this problem, what number could be our of in this problem, and what number could be the percent in this problem, okay? We're filling in blanks. Something could go in each one of these spots before we go through and we solve it out, okay? So, looking at the actual formula and then the problem, I always say it's easiest to find your percent because it's literally the number that has the percent sign attached to it, right? So if you look at that, that's the first thing I think we should do, right? The 55%. So I'm going to go through and I'm erasing where you see the percent sign, and I'm going to write the number 55, right? That's my percent. Now I see another number in this problem, right? The number 22. What do you think 22 would be? Is it going to go on the top? Is that my is? Or is it going to go on the bottom? Is it my of? Well, right off the bat, I can tell that 22 is right next to the word is. So that's where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it up top. It's my is. In mathematical sense, that means, 22 is my part. And it's part of some total that we don't know. Okay, so I'm going to go through. And again, 22 is my is. So I'm going to erase the word is. And I'm plugging in my formula. So instead of the word is, I'm now going to write the number 22. Yeah. The only thing left that I have to fill in is the of. Right? And if you look, there's no more numbers left in my problem, right? The only thing that is left is the word of next to the word what, okay? So in a math problem, when you're like, what? You don't know what it is. Instead of putting a question mark, we actually put a variable there. It stands for something that you don't know yet, right? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to erase the word of and replace it with my what, which is, in mathematical sense, a variable, okay? So step 1, we wrote down our formula, is over of equals percent over 100. Step 2, we went through and we plugged in our clues from the full question down below. So we found our is, we found our of, we found our percent, and we filled them in, okay? Now we're ready for step 3. Step 3, if you look at your notes, you're going to see this visual right off the bat next to the formula. Step 3 is that you're going to cross multiply, Okay, so I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. When I say cross multiply, I usually start cross multiplying with wherever my variable is. Okay, because my goal is this is an equal sign in the middle, right? I want to solve and put my variable on the left side, and then the answer is going to go on the right. And I'll explain that in just a second. So if I do 55 times x, we no longer write it like a little kid. I don't say 55 times x because look how confusing that is, right? So now that we're getting older, right? We're getting so big. We are going to actually write it like you would in algebra. So you actually can skip even writing an operation symbol altogether and you just shove them together. So 55 shoved up against x means 55 times x, or 55 times some number we don't know yet, okay? And then I'm going to cross multiply the other way, and that gets me 2,200. Okay, so that was step 3. All I did was cross multiply. Cool. One answer goes on one side of my equation. The other answer goes on the other side of the equation. The very last step, when you're talking like properly in algebraic terms, you are going to isolate your variable. Isolate just means get it all by itself, right? You want to in isolation. So I need to get x all by itself. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to like get all of that out of the way. So this is all you focus on. In order to get x all by itself and for it to say x equals whatever my answer is, I have to get rid of 55, right? That would solve all my problems. Well, I can't just erase it. That's not how math works. Unfortunately, it's not that easy, right? So instead, you have to do what they call the inverse operation. Inverse is just, again, with math, a fancy way of saying opposite, okay? You do the opposite so you can undo something that's being done in math. So think about if I gave you $5 and then I came over and I ripped it out of your hands, right? And I stole it back. It's like it never happened, right? If I give you something and then I take it back, it's like it never happened, right? If I go and I multiply the amount of money in my bank account by 5, and then I decide to take that amount of money and divide it into 5 groups, I end up back at the original problem again. So it's like it never happened. That's what inverse means. It literally means do the opposite operation so it cancels out. It goes away. Okay, so the inverse would be if you're adding, you would subtract. If you're multiplying, to do the inverse operation and make it go away, you divide. Okay, so this is what we're going to do in our last step. We always want to get our variable in isolation. So right now, what am I doing? I am multiplying x by 55. Well, what is the opposite or inverse operation of 55? The opposite operation of multiplying by 55. The opposite of multiplying is going to be to divide. I'm multiplying by 55, so the opposite is to divide by 55. Cool. And if you think about it, any number over itself is the same thing as 1, right? So 55 over 55, or 55 divided by 55 is 1. That gives me 1x. Well, guess how else you can write 1x? 1x. Okay. And because there's an equal sign here, oh boy, because there's an equal sign here, I am able to, whatever I do to one side of my equal sign or my equation, I have to do the exact same thing on the other side. So if I just divided by 55 on one side, I have to divide by 55 on the other side. Okay, so this is my very last step, right? We are getting our variable all by itself. We're isolating our variable. And the way that we did that was by undoing the operation or doing the opposite operation, okay? So now I'm going to take 2,200 and divide it by 55, and that gets me 40. Before I just type that into ALEKS and move on and be done with it, I need to check logically, does that make sense? So if you remember, up top, right? We said 22 of what number would be roughly 55%, roughly half. Does it make sense? Is 22 roughly about 50% of 40? Yeah, it is. So I know that the total number that I came up with makes sense, and I'm ready to like submit and move on. Okay, so that is in a nutshell how you're going to go through and solve percent problems. I'm going to end this video just to keep it short and sweet, but check back if you would like more practice problems in the next video.